This weekend, my in-laws and I went to Topgolf, and so I wanted to offer a little bit about the experience. So without further ado, let's jump right in. What you're initially faced with is this pad right here. That is a pad that is in two segments, and I'll get back to why that two is important here in just a moment. And on top of that is a section of turf with two small components that let you hold on to a ball. And then, of course, you have the primary thing right there that gives you the ball. You put a little golf club next to a sensor. That sensor spits out a ball right a little bit below that. Now, the reason I bring up the two pads is because one of those can be removed. I myself did not know that until about halfway through, otherwise I would have removed one of these. Now, the reason that's important is that gives you, the wheelchair user, more room to navigate around and bring your wheelchair down closer. Now, there is a drawback in that turf does provide more traction than the floor. Obviously, you can see that it's a bit shiny. 9 times out of 10, shiny means slick, or at the very least, not the best traction. So you're going to get a lot better traction on that turf, which is what I used in order to keep myself still. Now, you can also obviously use brakes or your feet if you're comfortable using your feet for something like that. Next, we go on to the clubs. When you go into a place like this, they're going to have some clubs that you can use. If you are in a wheelchair, or if you're even just a little bit shorter, those clubs are going to be too long. And so I made the mistake, actually, this time of getting 2 different size clubs. Initially, they asked me how small I wanted them, and I wasn't really sure how to respond. So they said, well, do you want the really small ones or the normal small ones? And I must have given them the impression that I wanted the really small ones. Those really small ones are, I believe, intended for very small children. What you want instead are the sort of middle ground, which are on the left in this picture. So on the right, you have the more or less standard sizes. Left of that, you have the itty-bitty, effectively baby versions. And you have on the furthest left what I would consider proper size, or at the very least it was proper for me. When you go to a place like this, ask for the appropriate sizing. Okay, next let's talk about navigation. When you're using a golf club and a wheelchair, what you need to be aware of is that the grip is not only good for your hand, it also provides traction on the wheel itself. So when you navigate, and this is true for not just golf, but also true for tennis and other similar sports, you want to essentially push the handle, the grip of that club into the wheel as if it was an extension of your hand. That'll let you move a lot easier than trying to hold that thing in, say, between your legs, on your lap, something like that. Next, you're there, you're getting ready to putt. In this case, it's a putter, but they're an assortment of clubs that you can use, but I digress. When you're ready, essentially what you want to do is hold out, like I said earlier, the club so that it triggers the sensor. There's a little slot that I'll show a little bit more in just a moment that will spit a ball out at you, and what you want to do is, in my experience, sort of angle the club such that when the ball bounces against the club, it goes towards the field, but you don't want to hit it necessarily. You just want to give it a nice little touch so that it only sort of moves in that direction. You don't want to force it any further than it needs to go. You're trying to stop the ball in front of you, not outright hit it directly into the field. Here we have the sort of upper view of what I was talking about. You have that sensor, that's the sort of circle right above, and then you have a slot. That slot is where the ball comes out. And again, what you want to do is angle the club so that it sort of bounces almost at a 90-degree angle along the sort of upper edge of that turf. Now what this does is that turf will slow that ball down so that it stops pretty close to directly in front of you if you're angled properly. You can certainly angle yourself as well or move it, and that's what we'll get into in just a moment. Right here. So essentially what you've got is the ball is close to in front of you, but obviously things may not go exactly the way we want, so you still need to probably move that ball a little bit. Again, this part is much more of an art than a science. You just sort of want to push the ball gently to where is most appropriate for you. Obviously, if you want, you can also pick up the ball and put it on top of that little white stick. I have found much greater success in just moving the ball close to in front of me and then hitting it. I think that moves a lot faster, works a lot more smoothly, but obviously I am not a golfer, so if this is sacrilege to some of you, please let me know in the comments and I'll see if I can adjust it in the future. And finally, we have the actual hit. Now, this is by far the trickiest part, and I am terrible at it. So I'm kind of glad that we didn't actually get a video of this posted here, but instead we're just using pictures. I think not only is this a better format to show you what we're talking about, but it also just highlights that I'm not as atrocious as I actually am. But I digress. This is the actual hit part, and balance is your friend. It always is when you're using something like a wheelchair. Essentially, what you want to do is use pretty much the exact same style as any other golfing person or golf technique would lead you to. The trick, though, is that especially when you're not using your feet firmly planted on the ground, what'll happen is when you swing, the wheelchair will want to follow where you move, especially if you have a lighter wheelchair or you've just recently cleaned it. Like if that wheelchair is super responsive, it's going to respond in the direction that you're swinging that club. Now, on turf, that's, again, not that big of a problem because the turf is meant to stop you from moving too far too fast. But even so, it can still cause quite a disruption. If you get too out of hand, it can even cause you to capsize, and we certainly don't want that. Safety is our number one concern here. So, as you can see, this is not the proper technique. I have my hands raised and I'm about to strike, but I'm not fully committing to it per se. It's still sort of next to my arm, not fully behind my neck, as I believe is the common method. The reason for that is that if I swung too far or hit it too hard, I would knock myself out of balance. Not only would that cause potential harm to myself, I could also totally miss the ball as a result, because as you're moving it, this will again disrupt the wheelchair, and so you will be in a different spot than you were when you started, meaning the ball will be where it was and you will not have come any closer to it. And there you have it, friends. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I know this one was a longer one. I have a few thoughts on other videos that could benefit from a longer video like this. Bowling is a big one. If you like what we do here, if you want to see more longer videos like this, or if you hate this and want to go back to the shorter ones, drop a comment, share the video if you liked it. If you did like it, then obviously like the video, hit the little nice blue button. Otherwise, thank you so much once again. Have a wonderful day. Keep rolling.